We're excited that our first forum is CD8. We have a couple forums today, and I think that there might be some candidates who are not showing up this evening for whatever reason. One candidate has given us a reason for not being here, and out of fairness, I'm just going to read the reason why. Jessica Steinman sends her apologies that she could not be here tonight due to pre-scheduled commitments with Congressman Jim Jordan and Congressman Morgan Luttrell in Willis and Huntsville this evening. But I'm so grateful that you all are here today, and I already look forward to getting to know you and getting to know you more. I pray God's richest blessings upon you, and I'm especially thankful for our judge, Judge Laird, who is going to be the moderator. So everyone, help me welcome Judge Laird, and let us begin the forum, and let's treat this place with a reverence and honor that is deserving of who our God is.
The rules for the forum are as follows. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes for an opening statement. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes to answer the question. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes for a closing statement. Our timer, who's in the front row, will be timing you, and you are responsible for paying attention to the time remaining. When your time is up, please complete your sentence and stop. We strongly encourage all candidates to be courteous and avoid comments or attacks of a personal nature. We will ring a bell should we consider any comment to violate this rule. With that said, we're going to start our opening statements with Jay Fondren.
How y'all doing tonight? Hey, so my name is Jay Fondren. I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a combat vet. I'm blessed to have 6 beautiful kids, and I'm invested in our community. One of the reasons that I'm running is that I'm tired of feeling like we aren't being heard in Washington, right? So much of what we do is we elect and we send politicians up to D.C. They go up there and they answer to the politicians. They answer to the big government. They answer to the party bosses. What they don't answer to is they forget is this seat belongs to you in this district. And they need to be thinking more about this district first other than putting, different things in front of us. So, again, I'm going to get a little lost in my words. So I'm really grateful to be here, right? I'm running because I want to represent you guys. I think it's time that we send a servant to D.C., someone who doesn't want to go up there. I don't want to be a politician. I don't want to go up there and join that political class. I want to go up there and serve you. I want to go up there and be a voice of reason and spend a few seasons and get up there and try to do what I can so that we preserve our faith. We preserve the God that saved us, right? And so that's why I want to go up there and is to be able to serve you and serve our God. Thank you.
Brett Jensen.
Good evening. So I'm Brett Jensen, and real quick, I want to thank all my other candidates who, care enough about the voters to show up when we have a chance to be seen and to answer your questions. Because ultimately, I agree with Jay. This is a job for somebody with a servant's heart, and we're here to serve you and the people of the district. I'm a Christian. I'm a husband, a dad, a conservative businessman, and I am a supporter of President Trump. I've been with Trump from the beginning, since the golden escalator. I'm running for Congress to fight for President Trump because he needs fighters like him in D.C. I'm also running to serve all of you and the great people, my friends and neighbors in Texas 8. I'm not a career politician. I'm not going to Congress to build my resume, to become a lobbyist or a Beltway insider, and I don't need to get rich trading stocks with Nancy Pelosi and the crew. Congress is already full of lawyers and Washington swamp people, and we need more business people with real-world experience like President Trump and myself. Every business person in this room knows that their business could not operate the way our federal government does. It's common sense. And in D.C., there's nobody who knows what they're talking about, and what Congress does doesn't make any sense. We need people that have signed the front of a paycheck and not the back, and people who understand what government actions do to those of us out in the real world. So as someone who has spent his life starting businesses, created thousands of jobs, look, I'm here to support capitalism, and I've seen it work firsthand. We all have, and it's under attack. Capitalism is what made America great, and we need to defend it. Finally, we're in a spiritual war for the future of our nation and the lives of our kids. Islamists have invaded Sharia communities like Epic City, which are here in our own state of Texas, have turned this state into a battlefield. My time is up. Thank you, and I humbly ask for your vote.
Stephen Long.
Thank you. Well, thank you again for the candidates for being here and for Grace Church and the Eagle Forum for putting us on. Appreciate it very much. I'm running for Congress because I want to play a part in building our children's future. I think it would be an honor for me to serve in that capacity. I'm originally from East Texas, from a small rural area where integrity, faith, and hard work was valued. I graduated from Sam Houston State University with a degree in business administration in 1991, on my age there. I had the opportunity in my career to take part of the American Shale Revolution, which has helped achieve America's energy independence. I've traveled and worked on projects all over the world and interacted with people all over the world in different capacities. And I've discovered that people around the world want the same things we do, just a chance to better their families' lives. I'm a father of 4 children. 3 of them are triplets. And I also have one who's 14 years old. My triplets are 28 years old, which gives me a wide span of exposure to different demographic groups. I've lived a good life. I've been able to buy homes, finance homes, build equity, raise children, send children to college, and had a few mistakes along the way. One of the main reasons I'm running, as I said, I'm sincerely concerned about our financial future. And if we don't, many economists think that we're headed in the wrong direction financially, and I would want to be a strong advocate to change that. Thank you for your consideration.
Nick Tran.
Well, thank all my fellow candidates, and especially for you all for taking your time out to come to see us. I want you to imagine somebody who saved your life. Imagine that same person who's just saved your life taking you and your family in when you had no place to stay. That's how I see America. That's the America that I knew when I was 5 years old. I lost my country to communism. I lost everything at 5 years old. I lost everything. My family, my home, my country to communism. My father and I escaped Vietnam during the fall of Saigon. Everybody else in my family that were not able to get out were forced out of their homes, dragged into re-education camp. My father and I escaped on a small boat made for 18 people, and only over 100 people got on board. We had no plan, just no food, no water, just hope. 3 days at sea, our engines died. And they say you can survive 21 days without food, but not 3 days without water. And on that 3rd day, people started to die. By the grace of God, an American warship from the Navy rescued us. That was the day that I met America, and I fell in love. That was the day that I promised that I was going to pay back this country. And when I was 18 years old, I kept my promise. I did the only thing I knew how. Raised my right hand, swore an oath, put on a uniform, and fought for us. I bled for us in 3 separate wars. I started my career in the military as an artilleryman, taking lives. And later on, I became a combat medic to save them. I have no regrets. I'm proud of my service, and I'd do it all over again. After 13 years of service, I transitioned to the oil and gas industry. I worked for a small company called Schlumberger. I built a global program hiring thousands of vets, helping vets get off the streets, helping vets find healing from PTS. I helped women get into careers with oil and gas. I helped children get interested in STEM degrees.
Thank you.
I'll talk more.
Deddrick T. Wilmer.
It's hard to stop the timer.
Give him a second to get the alarm.
See what Tran, see what you've done already? Good evening. First, I'd like to give honor and glory to my Lord, Savior Jesus Christ. I'd like to thank Pastor Steve and Becky Riegel for opening their hearts in this beautiful campus here at Grace Church. Thanks for MCF, and also most important, the people of this district. And thank you for showing up tonight, because leadership starts with engagement. The question I asked everyone, can we love Judas as we love Jesus? That's a powerful question, because faith without action is empty, and leadership without results is just noise. Tonight, you will hear many of us talk about tonight different ideals, different ways we move our country, but I stand before you as the only candidate here who has currently elected and who is serving and who currently deliver results. Not slogans, just service. Here's what Republicans demand and what I will fight for. Bring our tax dollars back home. Washington takes too much and sends back too little. That's why property taxes keep rising. I will return federal dollars to our communities to lower the tax burden on our homeowners. And also to interfere in the actual frustration of constant flooding. We don't need another study. We need action. Move that stormwater underground to both the Galveston Bay and as well as the Houston Ship Channel. Conservative engineering, permanent results, let's get it done. Let's support law enforcement agencies by restoring public safety. I will secure federal grants and contract policing, and also to give smaller municipalities like MUDs and PIDs an opportunity to reduce the tax savings back to you. And last and not least, let's put veterans first. Let's stop pandering around veterans. Let's do TRICARE for life. And as we talk this evening, you get to know more of the vision that I have for this wonderful district, the 8th District. Thank you.
For our first questions, we will answer in the same order we gave opening. And the first question is, how has your past prepared you for this position? Specifically tell us, how has your past prepared you to get conservative laws passed?
So my past, so in November of 2004, when I lost my legs, Lord just redeemed me and brought me out of that. And one of the things that he did that with is through the community that I lived in, right? And the communities that we have here in Texas that came around and rallied and supported around me. So one of the things that's prepared me for that is the leadership I've had in the service, the leadership I've had in helping veterans after I got out and working in the VA and changing the system from the inside. And then as ironically as it was, I decided I want to help vets and I left the VA. And so working with the system and working with government and getting things changed and passed, I've gotten legislative enactments, and I've gotten processes at the VA that have been enacted. And so I have some experience working inside the bureaucracy, and my goal is to cut it out and get it back to you here. I think that you guys are best capable of making the decisions on where our money goes and where our taxes goes. And like the rest of us up here are kind of talking about, is to cut that back so that you can have more of those funds to spend on our communities here in Texas. Thank you.
Well, as a proud capitalist, I've been blessed to work in a lot of different industries and with a lot of different people. I've built businesses, a lot of oil-filled businesses, like my fellow candidates up here, but in others as well. And it's given me a profound respect for what made America great in the first place. And there's a couple of things. First is the people. There's no greater people in the world than Americans. And we need to all remember that because it's too often forgotten in our current climate. It's also given me a profound respect for the fact that capitalism is the engine that has built America's greatness. It has won 2 world wars. It defeated the Soviets in the Cold War. It has provided the highest standard of living. It has provided a standard of living that would appear to be science fiction to our grandparents. And in a world where our children are confused by how we got here, that capitalism is the enemy and socialism is the answer to our jihadist enemies who don't seem to understand that Western civilization is incompatible with Sharia law. My experiences in seeing what made America great prepares me to go back to DC. Because let us remember that the House of Representatives was always envisioned as a collection of citizens, small business owners, farmers, people from America, not a bunch of insiders in DC, not a bunch of permanent politicians, but citizens. That's why our founding fathers gave the taxing authority to the House of Representatives, because they know what we know, that we're the ones paying the bills and we're the boss. Thank you.
Do you remember the question?
It's as far as conservative laws being passed, right?
How has your past prepared you for this position, specifically to get conservative laws passed?
Okay, yeah. So my past, I grew up from humble beginnings. Okay, I lived the American dream. Really, I started out working construction right out of high school, and worked my way up into college, and got a job, and was able to buy homes, finance homes, and I've been through all the stages of life that I think that, well, at least about 2/3. I'm not that old yet, but anyway, I've got kids. I've went through the saving for 529 plans, sending kids to college. I've got a kid that served in the Marines, which gives me a perspective of military service and that. So, but my main platform of running is fiscal policy. Okay, the United States is running. We're spending about $7 trillion, and our tax revenues are only about $5 trillion. So we're running about a $1.5 to $2 trillion deficit every year. When you calculate the interest expense over the next 25 years, if we keep at this pace, our grandchildren and children will be spending about 20 to 30% of the tax revenues on interest expense. Okay, so that's my main reason of running. It's for the future, our children, and thank you very much.
My experience, I have a distinct experience. I didn't read about communism through a book. I lived it. I know what it's like. I know living in America is a privilege. And I have one thing to say that I've said before. If you come to the United States, you need to come legally. And once, if you're allowed here, we don't owe you our country. You owe us your loyalty. I understood that at a very, very early age, and I fought for her because America is worth fighting for. I know that communism starts with socialism, and I see that happening in our country. And I hate communism more than anything else in this world. I lost my mother to it. So what makes me conservative is I know that truth. I fought for it. I'm fighting against it. I'm fighting for it now. You know, I was able to achieve coming here with nothing but my clothes on my back and being able to achieve the things that I've achieved, not because I'm special, not because I'm better than any one of you here. I achieved it because of the American dream that only exists here in this country. There's no other dream around the world. It's not the British dream. It's not the Italian dream. It's just the American dream, and that's what I'm fighting for. I'm fighting to make sure that my children, your children, and your grandchildren have a shot at that dream. There is no other place for us to escape to. The line is drawn here, and that's why I'm stepping up. I'm a political outsider. I'm new to politics, certainly not new to service. My experience comes from geopolitical experience, working with other allied nations to fight and destroy an evil insurgency overseas, sit in front of village elders who didn't trust us to build that trust, build that relationship. That's proven conservatism. There's only one country, and that's America. It's the only country I love.
My past. I'm an oil and gas kid from Baton Rouge. I was listening to a song from Garth Brooks that's called Baton Rouge, one of my favorite songs. My past have dictated me to opportunity of leadership, how leadership listens, how leadership leads, how we have to take our veterans and provide TRICARE for life. If an individual on Medicaid could get access to providers anywhere around this metroplex, anywhere across this country, but our veterans are told you have to go to a doctor that's serviced only by the VA, that's a problem. We have to make sure the fact that we provide community police, give funds to the mud districts and local small municipalities to increase and better our response times in our communities. And another conservative value we can do is eliminate income taxes for K-12 teachers and paraprofessionals, disabled veterans, active duty members in the military, our first responders, and as well as our men and our women in blue. That's true conservative values. That is what I've learned in my past, how we move America forward. Thank you.
The next question, Mr. Jensen will have the first response. And the next question is, what are your top 3 issues to address in DC?
Well, thank you for the question. First, like some of my fellow candidates up here, we need to have a serious conversation about the national debt. We'll get back to that in a second. We also, as I said, need to make sure that from the 8th Congressional District, which is the most Trumpy, most red, with the best people in the state of Texas, is sending someone to DC who actually represents the people that live here and not the people in DC. And what I mean by that is, look, there are moderate districts in other parts of the country, and it makes sense that you would get a moderate representative. But why is one of the most conservative districts in America not sending a fighter for President Trump, a fighter for what we believe in, a fighter for our vets, a fighter for the jihad, against the jihadists? Why? It doesn't make any sense. We need to be sending somebody who represents the district. That is a genuine priority of mine. Going back to DC and fighting for what we all believe in. The things that are talked about at meetings, the things that we talk about with our friends that we care about. And I know that that's a broad answer, but it's an important one. Because what is the title of the job I'm asking you for? It's representative. I'm there as your representative. I'm not there for me, I'm there for you. And that's what I'm going to do. I have been called to this. I have a great life. And I'm asking for you to send me there so I can fight for you, because I don't have any other reason there. So back to the debt briefly. If we don't tackle the debt, we will not leave in America for our kids. Everything from why everything's expensive at the grocery store to why your adult children can't get mortgages all comes back to debt, because debt and inflation are tied together.
Thanks, Brad. I'll continue on with the theme of fiscal responsibility. And as far as first 3 things I would do to try to resolve that or be an advocate for it are the 3 big buckets of spend, okay? Medicare, medical care is one, okay? The United States spends about $5 trillion a year total on medical care, okay? And about half of that is government spend that the taxpayer pays for, okay? A big part of that bucket is the elderly. And these are people that we take care of. They've paid into the system for years, and we have to take care of those people. That's a mark of a society, is taking care of the elderly, okay? But we have to figure out more efficient ways of doing it, okay? The second is Social Security, okay? It's not widely known yet in the media circles, but in about the early 2033, the trust fund will be depleted from Social Security, and whoever's drawing Social Security will technically have to take a 25% reduction at that time. That's unless Congress enacts a bill that will inject about $400 billion a year into the Social Security program. Well, that's just more debt that we pass on to our kids. And so the third thing is on the national debt is just general expense altogether, okay? There needs to be about a 15% cut in just about everything. And a lot of politicians, Rand Paul is one that has some plans, and he's actually been able to hold his office without getting unelected. But the gradual decrease in the budget is the path I think that we have to go. And if we don't do it, just like Brett said, we're going to be passing this debt on to our children, and it's going to be unsustainable, and inflation will take over the economy. Because we won't default on the debt, but we will inflate our way out of it. Thank you very much.
What are your top 3 issues to address in D.C.?
Number 1 is to codify President Trump's executive orders so that no other future presidents can change them. I mean, I'm proud to say that President Trump has been the best president in my adult life. When Reagan was president, I was just a wee bit lad. But as an adult, I can honestly say President Trump is the best president, and we need to make sure that his executive orders don't get overturned. Second thing is to defend the Constitution. We as the people do not need overregulation. My job as your representative is to control the government and prevent them from overreach. Eliminate IRS, eliminate ATF, push for the Fair Tax Act. For veterans, the Richest Star Act, make sure that vets who are injured in combat are not penalized for their service. My logo on my campaign has 2A, Second Amendment, and oil and gas. Those 2 things I defend vigorously. But the most important is, the Second Amendment shall not be infringed. It protects the other amendments. Coming from a country that was overtaken by communism, the power needs to stay with the people. The people need to make a choice. Our government is built of the people, by the people, for the people. And like Brett said, which I agree, should not be elected by those chosen by the establishment. Those who come riding here on the coattails of career politicians. It's supposed to be chosen by the people, represented by the people. Thank you.
Three things that we have to do is modernize the federal government. As I currently serve in Harris County Mud 248, only one who's sitting here tonight who's elected, that we have to make sure the fact that our government partners, we have to work together, our government partners, but they're running regulations and policies over 50, 60 years. And the problem is the fact that it's not getting the service direct to the people who need, which is you. The second thing we need to do is overhaul the VA healthcare system, as I said earlier. We need to make sure the fact that they specialize only for service-connected evaluation, mental health, and rehab, and allow the remaining from the eyes to the toes go to traditional providers across our footprint outside of the VA healthcare system. And last and not least is bring the tax dollars that we invest into the federal government, bring it back home, and let's get the flooding, let's get these flood tunnels and get this water out. We have, for the last couple of years, we have escaped from a couple of hurricane seasons. And trust me, we have to do something now. No more studies, let's get the funding, and let's get the Army Corps of Engineers to make it happen. Thank you.
Mr. Fondren?
So for me, I guess my 3 priorities when I get to D.C. is, 1, I want to return the power and the money back to the state, right? We send money to D.C. I hate this analogy, but we send like $5,000 to D.C. and they send us back $1 to do whatever we raise the $5,000 for, right? So we need to cut those government programs that are overreach, like the IRS and Department of Education and some of those other ones that they don't need to have such an administrative staff up there in D.C. That's the other thing, too, is getting the big organizations, getting them decentralized out of D.C., right? It's just one big swamp. And when they get up there, they get all this bad, thinking and basically kind of have this, there's this analogy when I was at the government, and there's what's the one thing that's into perpetuity is the government program, right? They're never going to say, hey, we finally fixed this problem, we're going to shut it down. They're going to continue to go on. And so that's one of the things I want to work on. The other one is I want to work on is securing the borders. And we still have fentanyl coming in. We still have human trafficking that's happening. And all of those things, then the cartels are really pushing a lot of that. So I'd like to see the cartels, us go more aggressively after the cartels. We seize their assets, we seize their funding, and we take those things away from them, right? That'll make our communities safer. Here in Houston, we're kind of a hub for human trafficking. A lot of things pass through in and out of the city in this area. And so if we can increase our law enforcement presence, if we can give them the tools that they need and work with local law enforcement and give them the tools and assets that they need, not stuff that we're forcing down on them, then that's the other option. And then the last thing that I want to do is I'd like to get the partisan politics out of some of the things that shouldn't be in there, like the VA and American Disabilities Act. Those things should not be tied in with partisan activities, right? They should be their own standalone thing. When veterans signed up to serve our country, they took an oath, and the country said they'd take a promise to take care of them. And I can tell you the government's done a pretty good job of that, but there's room for improvement, and there's room to cut the fat. And then on the other is just representing you guys. Want to know what your initiative is. What's the one thing that you want to see done that could benefit you? That's what I want to do. Thank you.
For the next question, we'll start with Mr. Long. And the question is, what is the role of government? For example, cancer research is a noble cause. Is it a role of government?
Yes, to some degree. Okay, if someone is not able to take care of themselves, obviously we should support that. You know, as far as research and development, I think the private sector, the incentives for the private sector in the medical field would be the best option for that. I haven't studied it to see what government funding there is for cancer care, but it gets to that fine line of where we are in the medical industry. We have the greatest medical care in the world. We also have a very expensive medical care. If you compare our medical care to some of the other European countries, we're about twice as much, or about 2/3 as much as they are, okay? So there's that fine line of having really premium care, timely, but also containing the cost. And I would be an advocate to analyzing the cost benefits of any sort of cancer research, if the government could do it the best or the private sector could do it the best. And it's probably the private sector, which is going to be driven by profits, but that's the capitalist world we live in, and that's why we live in the greatest country in the world. Thank you.
The role of the government, the federal government, is restricted by the 10th Amendment, which is to regulate commerce and protect our borders. The rest is up to the states. As far as cancer, the government needs to stay out of it. Anything that the government does has not been done well. Cancer research, cancer needs to be in the free market. Look how long it took NASA to do what it did, and look what Elon Musk did, right? There's no other country like America. And what makes it great is the free market. Innovation by the people. The government needs to do those two things that are limited to the 10th Amendment. And need to stay the rest of our lives so we can grow. And this is why other people died to come to this country. Don't mess it up by coming here and bringing your junk that you left behind. That is it.
The role of cancer. My mother died 3 years ago in a few weeks. And she battled cancer twice, one for breast and one from colon. What we have to realize in this country that cancer is real. Yes, we do need all hands on deck, like the government, to do what it takes to do the research, but most important, the wellness of testing, prevention, and treatment. To treat it, but to cure it. It is each and one of our responsibility to do so. You can't stop it. It's something that you have to deal with. And I know each and one of you have had a family member who have dealt with that crisis and that war. It is a war. It is draining. And it's our responsibility as government to do what it takes to make sure that we beat it, but most of what can we do to prevent it with wellness, eating habits, smoking cessation programs, other opportunities to where the fact that we can eliminate opportunities that will actually cause cancer and provide us research and its treatment. If we need to enhance our Medicare, engagement, as well as our VA engagement, as well as ACA, and also to demand our health insurance companies to provide adequate coverage to make sure that the treatment that's provided is opportunity to go into remission to be cured. This is what happens when leadership leads and leadership listens.
So, what was the question?
The question is, what is the role of government? For example, cancer research is a noble cause. Is it a role of government?
It's a great noble cause. It is not a role of government, right? The 10th Amendment is very specific on what the federal government is supposed to do. Regulate commerce and national defense. Outside of that, it needs to be sent back down to the states and the local communities, right? All those things, I can tell you from working in the government, all those things, the government programs, when the government decides it's going to fund research, what it's saying is we're going to fund having this issue until perpetuity, right? Because there's no incentive to solve it. When you have free market society, the profits from healing those things, and all that's going to drive it, right? And so, no, the government shouldn't be in that. The government shouldn't be in our oil and gas and our energy sector, right? We should be able to unleash it. We as Texas, we produce, I think it's like 25% of the world's or the country's oil and gas. We shouldn't have like concerns about freezing and running out of power, right? Those things shouldn't be happening here. And the best way to do that is to get the federal government to cut the regulations, get them out of the funding for that, and to push that back down to the states where the states and local leaders can make those decisions, right? If we wanted to invest in nuclear, if we want to drill more wells, and all of that, we should not have a problem with power here in Texas, right? And so the government is limited to the national defense and the commerce. Other than that, we need to do it. We need to abolish some of those regulations, those rules, like the National Firearms Act, right? All of that needs to go away. The government's overreaching and all that. So my idea is to shrink it. It's not for cancer. It will never find a solution if we ask the government to do it. Thank you.
Well, first, I just want to go on the record. I am against cancer. That being said, I think the real heart of this question, we're all against cancer, is about the government and about the role that it's playing. And we need to back up real quick and talk about what makes us special. What makes America special? Well, we've talked about the people, but let's talk about a document. It's called the United States Constitution. It's referenced a couple times, the 10th Amendment to that document, but let's briefly point out that the United States, especially at the time of its founding, was unique in that the people created a set of rules for the government, not the other way around. We have a government that exists of enumerated powers. That means the government can't do anything that we don't tell it it can do. That's the point of the Constitution. That's what the Constitution says. So what's the real heart of the question? Well, the question is that we now have a government that's lost its way. We have a government enabled by radicals on the left, by the courts in the 20th century that have used little tiny words in the Constitution like the Commerce Clause to say, oh, everything that you do that's interstate commerce is our responsibility and right. Well, the only way we're going to take our country back is if we start at the beginning and say, what is the government allowed to do? And that's in the Constitution. The 10th Amendment's a great start. It says, hey, the federal government, anything that is not listed in this, that the federal government does, the states can do. You know another good one? The 9th Amendment. You know what it says? It says that whatever we didn't tell the government can do, you have the right to do because you're free people in a free country, and the government doesn't get to tell you how to run your life. It doesn't get to tell you how to run your business. It doesn't get to tell you that we've invented a pandemic and you all have to go home and you can't go to church and you have to wear masks everywhere. We have got to stand up to the government And that's what I'm going to D.C. to do.
All right, Mr. Tran will be the first one to answer the next question, which is, what Bible verse most represents you?
Ooh, that's not a hard one for me. So, Psalm 144:1. Blessed be the Lord my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle. I was born in war. I fought in 3 wars. I came in this country with nothing, and I built something because of this country. Those of you who haven't figured it out, I wasn't born here. I wasn't born in Texas. But I sure as hell got here as fast as I could. I assimilated. I think that's the biggest part, the most important thing for immigrants to come here, outside of coming legally. You have to assimilate. You have to speak our language. You have to be an American and nothing but an American. Yes, I wasn't born here, but when I went to Afghanistan and Iraq, this was the flag that was on my shoulder. It wasn't the Vietnamese American flag, it's the American flag. I am an American. The stars are on the right. It's not backwards, it's because it's going forward, and we're going forward, not backwards.
Genesis to Revelation. There's a book of Job that I really love. Whatever Job went through, he did not cut at God. He persevered everything that came his way. But there's a chapter and there's a verse in 1 Corinthians talk, love is patient. Love is kind. It's not boastful, it's not prideful, did not demand its own way, it acts for the truth. But it says at the end, love always wins and prevails. This is what we have to do in our nation. We have to unify our nation right now. Our nation right now is very divided. And it takes each one of us. It takes our men, our messengers of the word of God. It takes the people in our homes to bring our nation together. Even we can have all the conservative values we want, but until we get people on the other side to understand us, and we have to understand those people, we may not think like us, they might not like us, but we still have to work together as one. I'm only going to be one member of 535 members of Congress on either side of the Senate and House. I have to work together. And it has to be by the love of the people and have the love of God. Thank you.
I love that question. So for me, it's Acts 10:13, where it says, arise, Peter, kill and eat. And here's the gist of it. The reason that I like that is because as a non-Jew, that's when we get grafted into the family of God, right? And so because we're grafted into the family of God, we're made in the image of God, we have value to God. So let's take that and expand that, right? Our country is great. We've talked about a lot of stuff. Our country is great, not because of the Constitution helps, but it's because we, as a government, recognize the rights that God had already given us as people, right? And so, but I like that idea, Acts 10:13. So we're all made in the image of God. We all have value to God, right? So that means that the individual that took my legs in Iraq had value to God, right? So that means that the Democrat that's protesting, they have value to God, right? And so for me, it means that I need to live my life in such a way that I'm lovingly leading them and pointing them towards the Lord, right? If we, as Americans and as conservatives, if we really want to make a difference, our preachers need to start preaching harder, and as politicians, we need to start standing for the truth, right? If we lived in a way that lovingly pointed the others to won them over to our side of thinking, we wouldn't have to have all this conflict. If we sent missionaries before we sent soldiers, we wouldn't have to send soldiers, right? And so that's why I like Acts 10:13. That's my favorite verse because that's where we get grafted into the kingdom of God, and that makes all the difference. Thank you.
Well, recently it would be the book of Esther, given my current vocation, for such a time as this. But for most of my life, I've always found solace in Philippians 4:6, which, forgive me, Pastor Nelson, the Cliff Notes version goes something like this. Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. And I think that too often we lose sight of the power of prayer. Prayer is real. We know it's real. I speak from my own personal experience. I have been profoundly impacted in my life when I have been lost through the power of prayer. I have seen the power of prayer work in other people's lives. I've been humbled by the power of prayer. And I think that for all of us, it's important to remember that that's not just something that we do at church. That's not just something that you go through the motions. It's something that is meaningful. It's our connection to something greater than ourselves, to the Lord. One last comment on prayer. I am moved every night at bedtime. I have a first grader, Natalie, who is very diligent at reminding me that we need to pray before we go to sleep. I'm grateful for her. And the wonder and joy that it brings her through the eyes of a child moves me every night. So, thank you.
Yeah, I'll go with one of my grandmother's favorite verses is Romans 8:28, and it's all things work to the good for those who are called and are called according to the Lord's purpose. I may have gotten that wrong, Pastor Nelson, a little bit. But so if you think about that, you know, all the things that happen in our lives, you know, personal lives, the country, if we think about the broad perspective of God's plan, we have to believe that there's a plan at the end. And that's a scripture that's held me up many times to go through hardships and difficulty. And another scripture, if I could, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Okay, that scripture basically, if we follow that throughout all the world, then we would eliminate pretty much all the conflict and disagreements and tension that we all have in some cases. So that's what I would say, and thank you very much.
All right, Mr. Wilmer will be the first person to answer the next question. We are going from the Bible to the tax code. What would you change about federal income tax, and are you in favor of abolishing the IRS?
I'm gonna say yes, but I want to get in trouble for that. But to be honest with you, the way we change our tax code is way how we raise money. The purpose of the federal government is to provide resources and support for our state, local municipalities, interests around the world. And the question is how we reinvest those. But money has to come in. Money do not grow on trees, like my father used to tell me when I was growing up. So the first thing we have to do is the fact that there's a lot of double dipping that goes on. Number one, law enforcement officer, K and 12, public educators and paraprofessionals, you know, military members, active duty members. Those individuals should not have to pay $1 into federal income taxes. And this is how we have smart government. And also, too, there's ways that we do overspending. As well as some individuals said earlier about the federal deficit. Yeah, it is high. That's why interest rates won't go down. Because, again, we have to keep reinvesting ourselves in order to keep ourselves out of debt because we constantly printing money that we cannot, you know, a credit card that we just spending up that we don't have resources to pay for. So the opportunity is the fact that, yes, I believe the fact that IRS do need some reforms. There are certain people in our certain sectors, especially, again, our active duty members who serve in our military, veterans, our educators, first responders, and our law enforcement officers should not pay $1 into federal income taxes. Thank you.
So the tax code, y'all try to read that lately? Can y'all read that lately? Like that's the point, right? Like our laws should be simple enough that you should be able to pick them up and be able to read them and understand them, right? And so I would push so that we can have a simplified tax code, so it's easy to read and it's understandable, right? I do think that we probably ought to abolish the IRS, though. I don't think there's a whole lot of need for a bunch of tax agents to have firearms, right? So, I mean, I don't see a whole lot of numbers going after them. And so, yeah, we need to simplify it. Now, we do need money to thrive, and so we would have to look at how we would manage all that. But absolutely, I agree that we ought to reduce the tax code, make it more simple, that we can easily understand it, and that everybody shares in the burden of paying for what we do. And I think it ought to be pushed back down so that control over that goes back down to the states and back down to you, right? So you can hold the local officials and the local people accountable for those budgets and items. So thank you.
Well, I'd like to start out with the fact that for more than 100 years, the United States had no income tax. Not only did we not have an income tax, it was unconstitutional. It was a fundamental principle of the people who founded our nation. I say that because, once again, it's important to remember where we started, who holds the power, what the purpose of this is. I'm not naive. I've been in business my whole life. We cannot run the country without some form of revenue, and I'm not standing up here as, some sort of crazy person. But far too often we get caught in these debates where it's, well, we can't because it's the way that it is, and we can't make this change, we can't make that change. Who's having those conversations? It's a bunch of lawyers in D.C., a bunch of insiders all talking to each other. They don't represent us. We're not paying their lobbyist bills. The reason the tax code looks the way it is because we didn't write it. There isn't a business person who owns a restaurant, who builds houses, who worked in oil and gas, even people that run churches could design a better tax code than the one we've got. Anybody could, because it's insane. Because it's not designed to maximize revenue, to make the country great, to do anything wonderful. It's designed to help certain people game the system against other people. Well, guess what? We're the other people. We're the ones they're gaming the system against. The hardworking, ordinary Americans of Texas 8. That's the people that everybody in D.C. is working against. That's why we need to send people from here, who understand here, who've lived a life from here, to D.C. So we have a representative in the room when they're going to gut us and our businesses. Thank you.
Yes, I might be a little bit of a contrarian with this group on this one, but I'll start out with this. What is 7 minus 5? It's 2, right? Well, that's how much the deficit is right now, okay? We're bringing in about $5 trillion a year in revenue, and we're spending 7, okay? So as far as the tax code goes, I mean, we're simply not, we're spending too much, and we're not bringing in enough on taxes. Now, that really probably got me out as far as raising taxes, but the fact is the math is just not working out, okay? Right now, the top 25% wage earners pay about 80% of the taxes in the United States. The bottom 50% wage earners basically pay a very small percentage of their income in taxes, okay? The tax code, in my opinion, demographically, when you look at the incomes of all the individuals in society as a whole, it is what it has to be, okay, in my opinion. You could redo the tax code, but you would have to figure out another way to fund people who need help, who need government help, and we are a society that doesn't believe in letting people suffer or starve to death. So it's 7 minus 5 is 2. Something has to give, or we're passing this on to our children, okay? $1.5 to $2 trillion a year is going to our children's debt. And in 25 years, the debt will be $80 trillion. And depending on the position of the bond market, the financial situation, the interest on the debt alone is going to be about $3 trillion, okay? Now, depending on what the revenues are, that'll dictate what happens with the economy. So, thank you very much.
Easy answer for me. Yes, absolutely. Get rid of the IRS, get rid of ATF, get rid of the Department of Education. you know, I don't have all the answers running for Congress. I never have all the answers, never claim to. So what I do is I go out and talk to the people in the district, talk to people who are smarter than me. And one of the things, the conversations that I had, that I learned, is about the Fair Tax Act. So what that does is it is a tax that gets rid of corporate income tax, personal income tax, payroll tax, gift and estate taxes, and basically all federal income tax. It's a consumption tax. Instead of taxing what we earn, it taxes what we spend. So there's no exclusions, no loopholes, no deductions that you have to worry about, no CPAs you have to deal with. It's revenue neutral, meaning it's designed to raise the same amount of money that is currently raised by the federal income tax. That means Social Security and Medicare are also protected. It creates job and economic growth. It eliminates 9% of compliance costs. And basically, you only get taxed on what you spend. You have to bring more money in home, and you don't get taxed for stuff that you don't.
Okay, we're back to you. Mr. Fondren, tell us how we can protect our votes, and what are your thoughts about eliminating electrical voting equipment?
Well, we definitely need election integrity. And you see those electronic voting machines and how they're being able to be hacked and corrupted and all of that. So I don't necessarily know if I would trust all of those. So, but how do you hand count that same number? So we need to have a system in place where we can utilize technology and at the same time be able to verify that same technology, right? I know one of the things they were talking about up in Dallas is that some of the printers that were coming out and using the elections were actually when they scan it in, that's a printer. And it fills out your blank vote. So if you don't vote for a position, it fills it out. Well, we need to have ability, again, to be able to verify and check those machines. We need to know who's programming those machines, what their political bin is. Is it a company from outside the U.S. or has ties to China or any of that kind of stuff? That's how we need to do it. I think, too, for how we can secure our vote and ensure our vote counts, I think we definitely need voter ID laws, right? Because the idea is that every citizen gets a voice. Not every person that's in this country, legal or illegal, gets a voice, but every citizen gets a voice. And so we need to ensure that election integrity, and we also need to ensure that those electronic machines, that they're not corruptible and that we foolproof those. Now, how do we do that? That's something like we're not subject matter experts in that, but we ask the subject matter experts in. But yeah, definitely we need to look into that. And I know there's a lot of compromise in the electronic voting stuff.
Okay, why are we asking this question? Joe Biden never received 81 million votes. That's why this question matters. We all know it. He knows it. That's why the FBI raided all of the ballots from Fulton County, Georgia, and took them under federal custody yesterday. So, what's the point of this? Well, let's start with the fact that many of us remember, especially our veterans, thank you, that in Iraq, in the mid-2000s, a war-torn country without electricity in most of the country managed to hold an election for president of Iraq where they knew the results that night, and everybody only got to vote once, and they didn't have a single computer connected to the internet. So the idea that somehow it's just so hard to run an election in 2025, we can't possibly figure out who won that night. We can't possibly figure, we're all also old enough to remember when we all knew who won on election night. Let's be honest. This entire conversation is silly. We have to have voter ID. We have to have some sort of national standard. We have to have some sort of system where the people in Detroit and Philadelphia who put the trash bags over the windows, we all saw it, and decide how many votes they need and come up with them. So you go to bed and it's one way, and you wake up and, oh, what do you know? We found just enough votes. Our vote is sacred. Our democracy is sacred. And if we're not willing to fight at the ballot box and for the ballot box, none of the rest of it matters.
Yeah, so ironically, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal this morning about President Trump has assigned a special counsel to study the 2020 election to determine re-look at that to determine if there's any voter fraud. And I hope they figure out what happened and what the misunderstandings were. But this is something I've read about and studied a little bit, but I would leave that to the experts. I would definitely be an advocate for figuring out a fail-safe way to get elections counted so there's no tension and no delays and everything flows smoothly during elections. Thank you.
We absolutely need voter ID. Democrats say that there's certain people that can't vote, can't get IDs. If you're not smart enough to get an ID, you have no business voting. You know what scares me? So what scares me is the Montgomery won New York City. On 9/11, when those planes hit the towers, we said, never forget. I went to war with that motto, never forget. In November last year, we forgot. What scares me is that it empowered the left to be able to take down New York City. And what that means, they have their eyes on the next big prize, which is Texas. Because once Texas goes, the whole country goes. Yes, I don't trust the machines. And like Brett said, in Iraq, they're able to hold elections. I actually was there, 2010, when women stuck their fingers and got purple fingers when they voted. Third world country like Iraq can do that. There's no reason why we can't. Election integrity is the most important thing, one of the most important things in our nation. Because if we had election integrity, Harris County wouldn't be blue. All of our cities in Texas wouldn't be blue. IDs and no machines.
The way to solve the issue is easy. You have it right now with TSA PreCheck, Global Entry, and also 2 federal sign-ons. All federal elections, you have to go through a sign-on with validation ID, you count your vote, and you're done. The system is already set up. Thank you.
Okay, last question. We start with Mr. Jensen. What are your policies, thoughts to remove illegal immigrants from our country?
Well, thank you for the question. So let's start with some basic English. If you are an illegal, you broke the law. You don't need to say criminal illegal because you committed a crime when you broke the law. So that means you need to go. There aren't a bunch of different categories. Look, we all understand that there are economic realities of the labor pool, and there are all sorts of things that everybody can say. But fundamentally, those are a different question than what we're talking about when we're talking about, do we have a country or don't we? Do we have a right to borders or don't we? Do we have a right to feel comfortable in our own home or not? Because you're either a nation or you're not. And if you are, then you have a right to decide who's in your country and why and what binds your culture. An example being, nobody in the United States should have to learn 14 different languages to live in their own country. It's common sense. This is why we need to send normal people to DC, because it's not confusing. The idea that what's going on in Minneapolis, anybody would be standing and fighting against ICE to stop that is insane. Deport them all. I'm sorry, a bunch of Somali refugees and illegals are running daycare scams on the state and federal government to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars, and we have people in the street fighting for them and against law enforcement? Gut check time for America. That's why we need to deport them all.
Yeah, just to frame this, in my opinion here, so there was, during the Biden administration, there were around 8 to 10 million, by some reports, illegal immigrants that entered the country. Just to put that in perspective, based on the data I've seen, since Trump's second term, we've deported around, or arrested around 300,000 people, okay? About 25% of those were convicted of criminal offense, and the majority of those were deported, okay? Another 25% had pending criminal charges, and about half of those were deported. The other 50% of the people arrested were just basically arrested for immigration, breaking the immigration laws, okay, in here illegally. 90% of those were re-released, okay? So the 300,000, 10 million number, I mean, you know, I mean, I don't think the administration's or anybody's ever gonna think that we can deport 10 million people. And in my opinion, there needs to be stricter laws on basically people hiring illegals. If you're gonna run into the situation we are with illegals right now, okay, it's too easy for an employer to hire an illegal and wink, wink, think he's legitimate, okay? If we're gonna be dragging people around in the street and all that, there needs to be stricter laws to prevent people from hiring illegals, and that would prevent a lot of the incentive for them to come over, okay? Now, that being said, and on another realm, about 60% of illegal immigrants are receiving government assistance. Now, not medical assistance, but some form, if their children are going to school, if you count that, and receiving SNAP benefits, that's about 60%. So it is a weight on the system. They do work, and they do turn in fake Social Security numbers and pay taxes on that. But anyway, my time is up. Thank you.
As an immigrant who came here legally and took 8 years to become a citizen, you don't start coming here to be an American by breaking the law. So yes, we have to deport them all, but we have to do it in stages. We have to prioritize. As a combat medic, I understood you have to treat, not the symptoms, but the cause. And the cause right now is we still have too many people coming in. We need to halt and suspend immigration for a period of time, especially for countries whose values, whose cultures don't align with ours. I'll be the one who will stand out here and say this. Islam is not a religion. It is a political ideology. It is the only one that will come here, won't assimilate, won't adopt our values, and refuse to be American. They come here to subjugate and conquer. I fought them overseas. I know what that's like. So we need to stop the bleeding first. The symptoms are the wrong people in our country, and we need to prioritize. Prioritize the terrorists, the ISIS-K, Taliban. Those are the non-state actors. Our enemies, the state actors, Chinese, Russian, others that come in here and took advantage of the open borders. They're planning perhaps an inside attack on us. Those go first. Cartels, the human traffickers, they're next. And then the rest afterwards. But we have to prioritize because we only have a certain amount of resources, and we have to identify the biggest threats and get them out first.
I will write the bill to end this immigration mess that we're in right now. This situation of immigration has been kicked around for the last 3 to 4, 5 administrations. We have to come to an end. Our nation cannot move forward with this cloud that surrounds us. The lady who made my sandwich at Subway today was an immigrant. The man who drove me here in the black car was an immigrant. Everybody that's from South America and Central America is not part of the cartel. They're not a criminal. They're real people. And some of these people been here forever. who do not have the papers to be here. We have to provide a path forward to citizenship for them. But you know the reason why they can't? Because they can't afford it. The employers won't sponsor them. So something has to be done. We could talk about all the rhetoric, but no one has come with a plan. So the question I ask each one of us tonight, what is the plan? The first plan is, number one, is to get rid of all 200 to 300 different visa types. That's number one. Number two, make affordable opportunity, because if you pay your taxes, you work every day, you're a law-abiding citizen, and you do right, we will welcome home you to our country, because each and one of us, including myself, is an immigrant. Again, leadership listens, leadership leads.
I was having a discussion with a liberal friend of mine on this exact topic earlier today. So I agree with a lot of what they're saying, is that if you came here illegally, you have to leave and come back in the right way, right? There's a proper way to do things. And a lot of what we're seeing is misguided compassion. Where's our compassion at? Do we have compassion for the lady that's been here for 40 years, who came over as a kid, who just did not take the opportunity in the last 4 decades to try to do it the right way? I mean, I can remember several amnesty periods where they had where, hey, come in, tell us you're here illegally. We'll guarantee amnesty. We'll start your paperwork, do all those things. They didn't take the opportunities that we've given them, right? And the compassion is, are we concerned more about them, or are we concerned about the lady that's waiting to come in, right? So, and they're waiting to do it the right way. We have immigration to jobs. We don't have immigration to welfare, and that's what we've been bringing in people that have overburdened our systems. And then what you're seeing, like up in Minneapolis, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but what's happening up there, that is insurgency operations. They have a C2 node, they have command and control, they're running reconnaissance on the officers up there, they're in communications. This is what other regimes do when they want regime change in another country. And we have foreign actors that have flooded our country with illegals, they have flooded our country with combat-age men. And we need to get them out of the country so that we can secure our house, and then we can figure out which guests that we want to let come in who, one, want to add value to our country and our communities, and two, want to pay taxes and do all these other things, right? They want to become part of the American dream. And in that, we need to encourage those and allow those people to come in. The other thing I hate seeing is those on the other side of this issue, when they talk about, well, we have to have these illegals, these migrant workers come in because Americans won't do those jobs. That's awfully racist of us, isn't it? Right? Like the same thing with voter ID. Like the blacks can't get voter ID, they can't get IDs, right? That's what the Democrats will say. That's my time, but yeah.
So it's time for your closing thoughts. You each have 2 minutes, and we're going to start with Mr. Fondren.
So the real reason I decided to run was I got tired of watching the politicians and not being able to get hold of them, and then seeing what's been happening in our country, and we have less freedom now than we had when I lost my legs in Iraq, and that makes me sick, right? The fact that I have to ask the government for permission to do so much in my life, right? The fact that the government wants to come in and tell us when and where we can worship and where we can't meet because we have this crisis and all that. We serve a Lord, and we answer to Him, right? And so it's God, other, self, and in all that. But the idea is that I want to serve you. I want to go up there, and I want this seat. The seat needs to belong to the people. The seat needs to be accountable to the people, right? A lot of people ask what we want to do when we get up there. I want to do what you want to happen up there, right? For far too long, it's been about America and about other countries, and I'm tired of watching C-SPAN and it looking like Jerry Springer, right? And that really kind of made me mad. And one of the things, so my background that brought me to this, and I'll kind of hit on this, is that the Lord redeemed me and saved me for a purpose, right? And when He saved me for a purpose, that was to go back and continue to give and to serve combat vets and to help them out of that dark hole. And now He's calling me to help come and to serve you so that I can speak truth to power up there, right? Like I can say really kind of offensive things in a nice way to people, and they tend not to bite back, right? That photo op's not going to go well for them. Think of me as the Republican Tammy Duckworth. So So, I mean, that's why I want to run. I think that you deserve it. I think that you're worth it, right? I think that you are, some people asked me about when I served my sister, my niece was asking me this question, and I told her, you're worth it. You are worth the fight. You are worth the sacrifice that cost my legs. You're worth me having to go to D.C. and live in the swamp and to fight the power up there. You're worth it. And I want to represent you because you're worth it. Thank you.
First, I want to thank the Montgomery County Eagle Forum for hosting this incredibly important event, right? We all need to get to know our representatives. I think DC would be a better place if our representatives knew their people and if our people knew their representatives. I want to expand that a little bit and also really make it a thank you to the amazing grassroots community in Montgomery County. It has been a blessing for me over the last several months to meet the wonderful people who work tirelessly to make these things happen. Precinct chairs, volunteers. If the rest of the country was like Montgomery County, we'd be all good. They had to leave, but I want to thank, there was a real special group. You know, we have vets up here, and, you know, thank you to all of you. I've spent a lot of time in my life helping the veteran community. It's actually kind of what led me to this run for Congress in a bit of a roundabout way. And there was an incredible group. They just had to leave from Camp Hope, who, when they found out, yeah, they were the ones in the hats, all these guys. When they found out, you know, that I was running, you know, they got bus and 30 of them came down here, and I would be remiss if I didn't say how grateful I was for them, both for their service and for their dedication that I don't really feel like I deserve helping me. So I also want to end by thanking everybody in this room, the voters who are engaged, the candidates. We all have other events we could go to tonight. We all have other things that we could do as candidates with the election barely a couple weeks out. But our responsibility is to you, the voters, and that's why I'm grateful that you all decided, along with me, to give you an idea of who your options are for representative in the 8th District. And with that, I humbly ask for your vote. Thank you.
Okay, in closing, I'd like to tell you a story about my granddaughter. She's very beautiful. When she was about 6 weeks old, that's the age when a baby starts to make eye contact with you, I would begin to talk to her, and she looked at me in that baby, tenderish sort of way and seemed to be asking, are you one of my protectors? So my granddaughter is the future of our country. Your children and grandchildren are the future of our country, okay? When in 25 years, okay, if we keep accumulating the debt that we're accumulating, as I mentioned earlier, we'll be $80 trillion in debt, okay? And most economists you talk to will tell you that is unsustainable because the way the bond market works and the way our debt is financed, we will either have excessive inflation or we'll have to default on the debt because our children will be paying 30 to 40% on the dollar for interest expense. So people like to blame it on the government, but we are the government, right? We elect government officials. So I'm asking you to, as you analyze candidates, to notice how they approach this problem and the emphasis they have on it. We vote in people on a 4-year cycle, 2-year cycles, and people want to look good while they're there, but we need to start thinking long term. Thank you very much.
Promises made, promises kept. I made a promise to America, and when I was 18 years old, I kept it. You know, when I started into this race, never thought I'd be a politician. People gave me a lot of advice. You should wear red ties. You should get this endorsement from that and this person. My endorsements don't come from career politicians. My endorsements specifically came from warriors, from patriots, from business owners, from people from the district. The reason for that is when I get to D.C., I'm not going to represent the political elites. I'm going to represent you, the people. We, the people, in the trenches, not those in the castle. Experience matters, yes. My experience was forged on the battlefield, in the mountains of Afghanistan and in the deserts of Iraq, in the boardrooms of oil and gas, building programs, running a P&L, running a multi-million-dollar budget. I swore an oath to defend this country from all enemies, foreign and domestic. I met our enemies overseas, and I defeated them. I'm stepping up to defeat those enemies that are trying to destroy us from within. I'm Nick Tran. I'm a combat veteran. I'm a husband, a father, oil and gas executive, and a political outsider. There's no other country like America. I've already lost my country that I was born in. I'm not going to allow this country to follow the same fate. I'm Nick Tran. I'm running for you. I'm running for us. I'm running for our children, your grandchildren. Thank you.
Before we close, I want to say this clearly. I came in to win back our country, starting right here at home. Republicans, we're tired of speeches, we're tired of excuses, and we're tired of watching Washington get richer while our communities get weaker. That's why this race matters. I'm not a career politician, not a professional talker, I'm a servant leader. I'm the only one candidate here has been elected, who's currently serving, but who had to deliver results. That matters. Because leadership isn't about what you say in front of a camera on a stage. It's about what you get done when the cameras are off. I will bring back tax dollars back to home to reduce property taxes and stop taxing Texans out of our homes. I will end this flooding crisis that we have here, moving storm water to both Galveston Bay and as well as the Houston Ship Channel. I will back our men and women in blue by securing federal grants for contract policing, faster response times, and safer neighborhoods. I will put our veterans first, TRICARE for life, for their families and spouses, and refocus the VA healthcare system to focus on service-connected care, mental health, and rehab. But as well as we shrink the government, reward service by eliminating federal income tax on veterans, law enforcement, first responders, K-12 educators, because if you serve America, we should serve you back. That's not politics. That's principle. This election is not about left versus right. It's about results versus rhetoric. We don't need another Congress trying to learn on the job. We need somebody that's ready to fight for Washington, fight for Texas, but to deliver for this district. I ask for your vote, not for my benefit, for the families, our veterans, our law enforcement, but also to the next generation of Texas. Let's lead with faith. Let's govern with courage. And let's remind you that we are as one. May God bless you. May God take care of you. And may the Lord bless you. And Lord bless our nation. Thank you and may God bless. Appreciate you.
So thank you all for being with us tonight to share your thoughts. Thank you for running for office to give us good people to vote for. And if y'all would all join me in saying thank you to these candidates, applauding them.